good afternoon, and happy Wednesday to everyone. It's such a pleasure to be with all of you today, especially on the first day of spring. I'm Irina Cismaș. I'm head of marketing at Castify, and I am going to be your host for the following 1 hour. And together with me, I have two amazing speakers who I'm sure you're going to love. First up, we have Rachel Provan, who's not just a top 50 customer success leader, but also a coach with over 14 years of experience in customer success. She founded her own company, Proven Success, to help others advance in their careers and build successful customer success departments. Welcome, Rachel, and thank you for accepting our invitation today.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
And then there's Nineta Ceaus, HR Director at Group M. She's got an incredible background in HR and organizational development with 20 years of experience as a trainer and a facilitator for national and international leadership programs. Nino, thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Today, we're going to talk about something that's really interesting and also quite surprising. We shared a stat, 86% of CSMs want to quit their jobs. It's a startling statistic, but we got some interesting insights to share with you all in the next hour or so. Before we dive into details, I just wanted to quickly go over a few things. Admin housekeeping items, let's call them. The webinar is being recorded, and everyone who registered will receive a link to the recording. If you have any questions, don't be shy. Just use the question button on your screen, and we'll get to them as we go. Now, based on the study we conducted at Castify, we know that a lot of CSMs are feeling burned out and are undervaluated. But we also know that there are some steps we can take to combat those feelings and build a more rewarding career in CS. And we'll be sharing some of those tips around the conversation today. But first, we want to hear from all of you. And like always, I am going to publish a poll. And this time, I want to ask you all, the ones that are joining us live, have you ever experienced burned out in your role as a CSM? I am going to publish the poll now. And we should give it a few more minutes for everyone to vote and contribute. And we'll start today's discussion by commenting the numbers. Up until now, 83% said that indeed they experienced burned out in their role as a CSM. I think it will be an 80-20 distribution. And I think 76 to 24 or 70-30, a few more moments. I'm glad that we also have lucky ones that are not yet. Okay, so I think it's a 74-26% distribution. So Rachel and Nino, how do you find the distribution? Is it surprising in any way?
I mean, to me, it's surprising in that I would think it would be more. And I don't know how much of this is based in the US versus Europe or elsewhere. I think the state of CS right now is, people are very susceptible to burnout because the current expectations are not particularly realistic. So if you're not experiencing burnout, that's fantastic. You have a good boss, you have good work-life boundaries, keep those because you don't help anyone when you burn out. It's not your fault if you burn out, but if you're not in a situation where that's the case, I'd hang on to it for the moment.
Yeah, like Rachel, I was expecting a big number on this burnout because, if you have a perfect life, if you have a perfect boss, as you said, if you have a perfect boundaries for your task and everything, yeah, the life would be perfect, but it's not. And right now, when we cannot call it in a way something that it's not okay for us, we are call it burnout, or we are call it I don't know, something that it's not okay for us in a professional environment. So yeah, the numbers are a bit less than I expected. But if you ask yourself if in some period you experienced burnout, the answer will be yes, for sure.
What about I want to kickstart the discussion with with the statistics of the fact that 86% of the CSMs do want to quit their job. How do you find this, Rachel, from a CS perspective?
Sounds right.
I was not
I
expecting that.
I was, yeah, the interesting thing when I posted, first of all, I said that and I told a couple of friends who are, other thought leaders in the industry, and they were all like, yeah, sounds right. Sounds a little low. We were thinking probably 89. So yeah, but the amount of comments I got that was like, yeah, that sounds right. And I would say, I think that burnout's one thing, and burnout can be very subjective. Like, oh, I'm still upright, so I guess I haven't burned out. Like, I'm not in the hospital, so I guess I haven't burned out. Um, and it is subjective. But wanting to quit your job, wanting to go somewhere else, that tells you, like, people don't like looking for jobs. And most people I know are looking for one, because the problem there is, yeah, you can go and find another one, but right now you're probably going to find a lot more of the same thing. Um, I have a feeling when the job market picks up, it's going to be a lot of people going from one bad situation, like to the other, and they're just going to switch places. And I'm hoping not. I think it will take a couple of turnovers before people realize I can't keep a team together. What's going on? So it doesn't surprise me. See, CSMs are being asked to do 3 jobs now. Being a CSM is hard enough. It's very busy. Oftentimes it's very reactive. And now they're often being asked to do CS, support, and now sales without any training, by the way. It's bananas. My whole thing is like, anything else? Laundry, windows, this is not a miscellaneous department. It's not possible to be successful doing 15 different things. You need to pick a lane. You need to pick what you want us to focus on, what you want us to achieve, and let us do that, because it's just not possible to achieve all those things from one person, or like, even with one small team. It's not. So, of course, people want to leave. When you're being tasked with things that aren't possible, that's not a situation that anyone wants to be in. If you can't win, you don't want to play.
I want to pick on what Rachel was saying, and I want to ask you from an HR perspective, how can HR teams work with CS leaders to create a culture of open communication and feedback so that CSMs feel comfortable expressing the concerns?
Um, First of all, you need to be very clear what kind of culture do you want to have. I think, and when you know what kind of culture, and of course, everyone at least speaking wise, you want to have an open culture and open communication and feedback. I think that you need to have 3 things in your mind. And it's very clear, and it's very, I'm very structured. I'm an HR, but I'm very structured. So in my mind are 3 areas, main areas that you need to pay attention on. First of all your people to have set it clear expectations, because employees are looking on their job description, for instance, just to see if they are meeting the requirements. But it's very nice and it's very healthy for your organization, also you as an HR or a leader, to relook to those job descriptions too. Does the job description, I don't know, also the development plan describe what is required in this particular role? Is, I don't know, the time that a person is expected to be at work, it's reasonable and fair. First of all, set clear expectation. Second, it's update the employee experience, because we are coming after a pandemic, period where in the first period it was very hard to talk with the people through the screen. After a period, it was very easy to talk with them through a screen. And in the last of the period, it was, okay, we want to go back, we want to see each other in person. And suddenly all this employee experience need to be changed. They are looking for flexible, they are looking for familiar, they are looking for connection, they need to be in the same room, but you need to pay attention what they need. So you need to be very sure what kind of experience your employees wanted or they are looking for. And the third one, it's be as a leader a role model. If you put boundaries for yourself and for your work, put the same boundaries also for your team. If you are looking for a life balance, if you are looking for an open communication, be open in your communication with your team. If you want feedback from your team, give feedback to your team. Be a role model, because our people right now are looking for role models. And if this role model, it will be your leader, the entire team will be the same. I experienced from my professional experience, I saw in the same company different department who are totally different. In some department the feedback was there, and it was an open communication and everybody was talking, and next room they were, oh no, do not talk, do not express what we are feeling. They are talking, just with each other. Did you see, have you seen this, have you seen that? I think that is the main skill that a leader needs to have to maintain and also to encourage this open communication. But first of all, you need to state this. I'm open for this kind of culture. I want to be part of this kind of team. So I invite you to be the same, and me as a leader to be the role model. I think that, speaking wise is very simple. On the practice side, it's a bit different, but I think that you have a goal. And I think that in CSM is not something totally different like in other industries. It's the same. And I think that you as a leader, you need to pay attention a lot of the people reaction. When somebody is giving feedback, for instance, what are the reaction of the others? They are afraid of this situation, they are participating, they are, I don't know, looking in other way, to not observe, and I don't want to be part of this. You need to pay attention. And after this, of course, to act, if it will be the case.
I think you're touching on probably the most important thing in leadership, and that's psychological safety. The feeling that you can speak up or admit you made a mistake or ask a question and know that you're not going to be punished for that. Everyone, especially with the economy the way it is right now, there's this undercurrent of like, oh my God, am I going to get fired? Am I going to get fired? Like, if I ask a question, they're going to realize that I don't know something, and then that's going to put me on the top line to be fired. It's everyone's got that thrumming under the skin right now. And if we can be clear, even if we can't be clear that like, okay, your job is safe, we can be clear that, look, you can always ask a question. You can always admit you made a mistake. I am not going to penalize you for that. If you make a mistake, we're all going to learn from it because we're all intelligent people here. But as you say, as the leader, you have to go first. You have to be willing to be vulnerable and say like, hey, I made a mistake last week. Here's what I did. Here's what I learned. Okay. Now you guys won't make that mistake. You can't pay lip service to it. You do have to keep space for that and keep them safe to the best of your ability.
I want to share my screen. I prepared 5 different stats that I wanna comment, and the discussion went into the second one. Give me 1 second. Um, share my screen because it's basically. Can you see it?
It's a little small.
It's a little small, but yeah, we can see it.
Okay, it's basically about 62% of the respondents said that they consider quiet quitting because unclear or mismatched expectations. And I wanted to ask you, to what extent do you think management is responsible for setting clear expectations versus individual employees taking responsibility for clarifying their roles and seeking for feedback?
I think that's the manager's job. I mean, if you're not getting it as an employee, by all means ask, because you're not doing yourself any favors if you don't get the answer. But yeah, as a manager, I, you need to know what they're supposed to do. You're supposed to communicate that. You don't, that's your job. It's not your job to hover over them and make sure they're getting every single thing done. It's, hey, this is what we need you to accomplish. Here are some ways you can do that. And I think that a lot of that issue is not just about that we're not communicating what needs to be done. I think it's changed drastically during the course of people's employment this past year. Like every single person I know is all of a sudden tasked with upsell, cross sell, which a lot of them were before, not all, but now it's the driving factor. It's like, well, that's why you've always been here. It's like, not really. Like, yes, of course, yes, enables growth and it results in that, but it's growth because the customer achieved what they came to the product for. That's what we're here to do, to get them their desired outcome. Then the rest comes along. But now it's like that part has gotten deleted and it's turned into a strict sales role. And that's not what people were hired for. And it's not what they were trained for. So, yeah, like that is a big mismatch in expectations. It's a big switch. And there's something a little gaslighty about saying, well, you were always doing that. When half the time they handed it off to sales. Now, I personally think it's a good thing for us to handle revenue, but to say that, that's always been the case and that these people should know how to do it, you know, I mean, you try going down to the engineering department. We're all in tech, right? It's unrealistic.
I want to take a question from Ashley. I publish it on the screen. She's asking for startup CSMs who have to spend multiple departments and responsibilities as a single person for the team. How can you create boundaries that resonate with the total organization and work towards the common mission while not burning out?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I talk to people about every day. That's kind of the that's kind of like my superpower statement is that I help you build, proactive CS departments without burning out. And that is about managing expectations and setting priorities. Now, a single person is not a team. And if they're expecting you to be a team and produce the amount that a team can, it's up to you to gently show how this is not physically possible in the bounds of space and time. The way I recommend doing that is take a list of all of your initiatives, priorities, all the things that you are tasked with. Make a list. Priority 1, 2, and 3, right? Um, and track your time for 2 weeks. How much time are you spending in meetings? How much time are you spending with customers? And look at that and bring it to your boss and say, look, this is what it currently looks like. Here's all the things that you also want. We need to just figure out some priorities. We need to figure out what's at the top of the list, because everybody wants to do more with less right now. And the way that you do that is not by just piling on more and more and saying figure it out. It's figuring out what's going to be the most impactful right now. It's that Pareto principle of 80-20. Where am I getting 80% of my results? It's usually from 20% of the work. What is that? And let's focus on that. Yes, we're going to have to let some of the other stuff go for this moment, but we can still get more done. We can still be just as effective with fewer people by focusing on that, but we can't do all the things.
How does excess workload affect the CSM's ability to perform their job effectively? And what are some common symptoms or signs that a CSM may be experiencing this issue? What should we be looking at? Us as leaders, but us also as individuals to realize that, okay, we do have an issue and we should start saying no or stop, or let's have this
I
conversation about
I see
boundaries.
this all the time in CSMs and CS leaders that they think that if they can't get done all of this work that has been assigned to them or given to them, that they are the problem. They don't take time to look at what they're tasked with, the hours in a day, and how long it takes them, and say, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. It's They just assume like, well, they told me I should be able to do it, so clearly people are doing this and getting it done. I guess I should work till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. I guess I should work on the weekends because it's my job to get this done. And they don't want to let anyone down, and they don't want to let their customers down. They care a lot. So, for me as a leader, I was always checking in, like, are you working past 5 o'clock? Are you working on the weekends? Like, if someone would message me something, I'd be like, no, this needs to wait till Monday. Your customer is not expecting this on the weekend. If there is an emergency, please tell me, I will handle it. But this is not surgery. Most of these things can wait an hour. Most of these things can wait till morning. So as the leader, you need to be looking at that. And you do need to be on the lookout for if your people are looking stressed. And a lot of times you'll just start to see it. They'll just start looking anxious, but most of the time they won't complain, and that's the problem. So you need to be checking in, like, hey, I've given you some more things. How are you balancing that? Are you able to balance that? If you can't, let's talk about it. If I need to get head count, or I need to say some things have to go in a parking lot, then please tell me, because I won't know.
And we are returning to open communication, Rachel, yeah? Because usually, I was smiling because usually in HR, we have exit interview. When, when somebody is leaving the company, okay, you have the exit interview to understand what is the reason behind it and all this kind of stuff. But I think that right now it's more important not to have the exit interview and to have stay interview,
Yeah.
from time to time, to have this conversation with the employees and with your colleagues to understand what is happening, and align with what you said. I made it at some point in a company, a sort of workshop, and the workshop was around 3 questions. It was something like this, and it was about the workload. The first question, it was, how would you describe your workload now? Too little, too much, just right, After this, what percentage of this is down to you, yeah? Colleagues, client, your boss, and what is from you, Make a percentage of 100, and put it what is down to you from the others, and what is down from your boss, and what it's on you, yeah? And look at these proportions, and after this, based on your responses, what can you do, either maintain or more frequently change the situation, but because it's very important to understand that not all the tasks that you have are yours or are part of your responsibility, or you need to react immediately. You need to try to prioritize it in a way. And what is funniest is that the top performers are willing to do more and to do all the tasks immediately on the time, to not overlap, the deadlines and this kind of stuff. And the top performers become or they will go in burnout very fast, unfortunately.
You've
And
been
you said something really interesting there, which is how much is from you.
Mhm.
And this happens in CS so much because, again, like, we want to help, we want to be helpers. And, there's the other thing. If someone else isn't getting the work done, it's going to impact us because it's going to make the customer mad. So a lot of times in CS, we end up, putting band-aids over other people's mistakes, or if someone else can't get it done, we'll get it done for them. because we don't want the customer to be bad. We don't want to have to deal with the churn that we'll then be blamed for. And there's only so many times you can do that. You're going to be, plugging holes with your fingers. You only have so many fingers. And I see this with CS leaders all the time. And I'm like, where's your work? When are you having time for your work? You're busy papering over everything. You have to solve the thing that caused the problem. You can't just band-aid over everything. And we do that because we don't want to upset the customers, and it's a bad strategy. You need to, I don't want to say you need to let a plate drop, but you need to let people be responsible for their own responsibilities.
Richard is asking, and CSMs are part of the customer happiness department. Agree or disagree?
I have a saying, we are not ice cream sellers.
Yeah, exactly. Like, happiness is such a hard thing to nail down. It's not our job to make them happy. That's an inside job. It's our job to make sure that they receive value from the product. And that's clear. It's not about making the customer happy. It's not about having a great relationship with the customer. The customer can have a great relationship with you. They can be very happy with you and hate the product, and they won't tell you because they like you. So you got to keep your eyes on the prize. Customer experience, yes, very important. Make sure they have a good customer experience, but that comes secondary to making sure that they get what they came for. And they didn't buy a product because you're lovely. No, it's a losing battle. And we're smarter than that. We're smarter than people who are there just to make you happy. We're strategic. We get it done. Rant over.
We've been discussing about responsibilities, and the third thing that I wanna share is about what are CSMs responsible of. And the part seeing that list of all the things that they have on their plate, the part that strikes me is support. 58% of them, did say that they are responsible for support. Why is support on a CSM, Rachel, plate?
Well, first of all, it shouldn't be. CS is meant to be proactive, support is meant to be reactive, and you do need both. Reactive is not worse. It's just you can't be doing both. And to me, support should be technical issues. They help you with technical issues. We help with strategic issues. And we should be syncing up, because if support is handling things like, oh, they don't know how to use this feature, yes, that is on us. We need to teach better. But we cannot be handling bug reports. And look, if you are a 20-person startup and you have 12 clients, yeah, CS and support can be the same thing 100%. If you have 100 clients, no, they cannot. It's a matter of, what do you want us to do here? What do you want to achieve? We can't do it at that point. There's this misunderstanding of, it took a while for people to understand that customer success was a thing. And after a while, they heard all these benefits, like, wow, customer success is so great. It improves retention, it improves expansion, and it improves advocacy. This is amazing what people are accomplishing with it. I'm going to get a CSM. They get a CSM and they're like, where's my 130% NRR? You have a Google sheet. It's something that requires tools, headcount, processes, just like any other department. And just as you can't expect, if you want your salespeople also doing marketing, they're not going to have as much time for sales. Generally, you're not going to do that. Customer success is a revenue department. So stretch them thin at your peril. It's this mismatch of understanding of what it is, and that it's not just add water. And that's something I focus on a lot. Like, here is how you build the house of CS. There are 4 distinct phases. You start reactive. Everyone starts there. But there are a bunch of things you have to put in place to get to informed, to get to proactive, to get to predictive. It's always going to go in that order. But there's a lot that has to get set up. And it's not magic, unfortunately. So you can't just throw everything at them and expect the result of something like a Salesforce, something like a Slack, or even a Calendly that has been around a while and has a full customer success department. And those people are certainly not handling support. So you have to manage your expectations to what are you enabling? What are you creating?
Because we are talking about the responsibilities, Richard asked earlier a question. I'm gonna publish it. He's asking, CSMs typically have a variable component to their compensation, such as NRR, ARR, or logo retention. Are we hearing from CSMs that they do not feel their targets are realistic anymore?
They ever were? No, like sometimes I think the upsell can be fairly unrealistic sometimes. I've seen the retention one be fairly realistic. And again, it really depends on where you are. I've seen plenty of companies where they are setting realistic targets, but it is on preferably the CS leader if they're being pushed down targets from above, saying, okay, so how do we come up with that number? What is this based on? Other than like, we want that. It's like we need to achieve that to survive. I get that, but we need to be able to achieve this strategically. If we are at 80% retention, 100% retention is not going to happen in a quarter. 100% retention is probably not going to happen because companies close. There's really not much we can do about that. But what I like to do is look at, year over year, quarter over quarter, what does our retention rate, what is our logo rate, what does our NRR look like? And then do a little bit higher, so that it's achievable, but a stretch. People got to get a little creative. They have to try a few different things. So generally 10 to 15% higher is where I like to set it. And I like to do it quarter by quarter. So that, it kind of resets and you're not like, well, that's down the tube, so might as well not bother. And, bonus people on their particular performance. If it's something where it's like, well, this is not realistic by any stretch, people aren't going to try. And, generally there's an 80-20 split. If you're not getting that full 20%, and at least in the US, bonuses are taxed at 50%, it's not such an incentive anymore. So you really got to make it achievable, but a little stretched. People think that people are going to work more if the targets are like big, hairy, audacious goals. They're just going to give up.
I want to ask you, Nino, how can companies support the well-being and the professional development of their CSMs while still meeting the needs of their customers, whereby still achieving their business goals?
First of all, well-being is not being happy all the time, everywhere, also, in the workplace and this kind of stuff. Well-being is the ability of individuals to address normal stress. So, to address work productivity, to realize one's highest potential, something like this. So it's not to be happy and that's it. So you need to manage how to face the stress in general. So what I want to say is that the well-being is not about not having stress at all or not having, I don't know, tasks at all or something like this. Well-being and the responsibility of the company, of the HR, and also the leaders, the responsibilities is around being or making employees aware of what they can do. And also you can do many things around this topic. You can, for instance, have wellness events in the office, nutrition, resilience programs, so this kind of stuff. You can go to the services area, for instance. You can have medical insurance, you have health coaching because it's something new on the market. And a lot of people, they are certified in health coaching. You can have a lot of resources, started with, I don't know, online trainings and this kind of stuff. You can find it everywhere. But the most important thing is to talk with them and to be sure that you will invest in what they need. Because what I can see lately is, okay, well-being, okay, we'll have a big event about this, but people are not willing to participate to this event. Yeah, it's another task for them. It's, even if the topic is well-being, they need, I don't know, 2 hours of discussion with health coach, for instance. Other people would be, I don't know, more interested in having 1 day off, for instance, I don't know, when they are not feeling well, and to have the capacity to discuss with the leader and to express this need. I need 2 hours. I don't know, I
Yeah.
need 2 hours off. It's part of the well-being organization. It's like, what kind of culture do you want to have? An open communication, feedback, and also focus on well-being. It's also a state, and you need to follow this state. If you said, okay, this company will have a well-being program or a well-being focus, no, be focused on this. you
Right.
know Otherwise it's just simple words on the walls.
Right. And those can, I think you nailed it. Those can be especially frustrating because it's like negative irony. It's like, great, we're having a 2-hour meeting on mental health. This is stressing my mental health because I'm now going to have to work 2 hours later and not take care of my children. At like, that is not good for my mental health. It's like the standard thing that you see so much of, like, okay, we're going to have a DEI committee. It's like, great. Talking about it does nothing. You have to put it into action. You have to live it. If you're not, it's worse, because you're signaling and people feel that. They feel that you're not really taking care of them as humans. So yeah, I have found that to be a huge thing. Like, somebody being upset over something, like, do you need a couple of hours? Like, take them. Let me know when you're up and running. Like, if you treat people like adults, like humans, they will usually knock themselves out for you. That kind of really human first leadership. My employees have done like triple the work I would expect from a typical employee, because they're so engaged and they know that they're valued and their thoughts and their work is valued. And that's how you get all this work out of people. It's not, by being like, go, go, we have to get it done, go, go. It's by being sensitive and saying, like, you get to call time. Um, but the other thing is also, when we were talking about the stress thing that you brought up, having no stress, I think that also comes back to the psychological safety thing of, if you can't get it done, you need to be able to talk about it and why, and go into problem solving mode. Your boss shouldn't be like, you need to get it done. It's like, okay, so what are your blockers? Let's try and figure this out. Let's all work together. As a team, what has been working for us? So there really are solutions to this. It's sometimes they're counterintuitive.
I want to discuss about the controversial topic about hiring freeze and layoffs, and we've been discussing about this. 36% of the companies have implemented hiring freeze, and 26% have undergone layoffs in the 12 past months. What can CS teams do to automate their processes and survive with limited manpower? I'll pass the question to Rachel. I have one prepared HR specific for Nino.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
wanna know, because those things are happening. So
they are. So you have to be able to address them. You can't just, and look, I don't want to come in here and be all womp womp. It's not doable. It's not fair. What do you do to address it? So, once again, it's about figuring out priorities. What do we want to focus on right now? We had 10 CSMs. We have 7 now, or we have 4 now. We're not going to be able to cover the same number of clients if we haven't done any automation to this point, if we don't have a tool to enable that. However, if you do have a tool, and don't get a tool until your data is clean, please. But if you do have a tool, like a CS tool, not Salesforce, then that can start to enable you to scale a little bit. You can start to say, all right, we know we always send this welcome email. So we don't have to push the button on that and write it every time. We can have something send that from our address. You can start doing one-to-many programs with onboarding, which is one of the things that takes the longest. I tend to think, a weekly webinar with recordings of just like, hey, here's how you use the product. Here's how you use the product if you have this use case versus that use case. One-to-many programs are amazing and solve a lot of issues. And then you can have, maybe office hours or something where if people have questions, but there's no need to spend an hour, 2 hours training every single new client. Anything that you're doing repeatedly where it doesn't really matter, or there's only one or two variables, make a recording. Loom is freaking amazing for CS. You don't necessarily have to have a call with every client. Sometimes you can send a Loom and what would have been 45 minutes an hour is 5 minutes of each of your time, and customers love it. Nobody wants to get on a meeting. So these are all like lightweight ways of accomplishing it, but the answer is not, okay, now you have 200 clients and you need a QBR with every one of them. No.
Amanda asked, and it's spot on. What is the realistic amount of clients that a CSM should oversee to make an impact and be in control?
That's a big old it depends. Because if you have an enterprise client where your company is threaded throughout their company, if you're working with like a Coca-Cola, if you're working with a Disney, and you're dealing with different locations and different groups of people, 3, 5. If you're, product-led growth and you've been around for a little while and found ways to scale with a CS tool and automate a lot of different things, 200 might not be a problem. It's really the level of touch and the level of strategy needed, and really how well defined your ideal customer profile is. Because if you're trying to serve everybody, there's no scaling. So again, a ballpark, and I don't like the whole, well, this, X amount of revenue. You could have a product that, people say $2 million in revenue. Well, you could have a product that's, a $30 a month subscription. Are you really supposed to handle that many customers? So it really has to make sense of what do the customers need to achieve? How are we a part of that? And what can we fit in a day? What is the average amount of time it takes? It's through scaling, which requires time, processes, programs, products. It's through that you're able to handle more over time. But it's not something where you can just say, like, this is your book of business now. Not possible.
You mentioned something, and I wanna ask you to elaborate on it. You said don't get the tool if you don't have your data right. Please explain a bit, because I see I see this as a common challenge. Let's talk about
it really is.
Why do you need the data in order for a tool to be able to help you?
I think that I wrote an article about this because I think that CS tools are treated much the way customer success is in general, as an easy button. There isn't one, everybody. I'm so sorry. I wish there was too. But basically what you can do with a tool allows you to automate what you've already figured out, and you direct it with data. So you're going to use a tool for something like, okay, when a customer onboards, send this email. If their usage dips 20% month over month, send an alert to the CSM to check in on them. If you don't have data, or if your data is messed up, it's going to send inaccurate signals. And all that's going to do is, one of my favorite sayings from a CS ops person, we were talking about getting a tool, and she was looking at the data, and she's like, no. Right now, all this is going to allow us to do is F up at scale. She used the word, but I was like, yeah, I think you're right. It's just going to send the wrong information to a lot of people and make a big mess. You have to make sure that data is right so that it's giving you the right information. Otherwise, you're just causing more work for yourself. So before you get a tool, your data doesn't have to be perfect, but it can't just be like duplicate accounts all over the place. Please have account numbers. You'd be shocked how many people don't have account numbers. You can't just base it on the customer's name. If they change their name, just really please account numbers, people. Make sure your CRM is up to date and make sure any user data is being pulled in accurately from your data lake. I understand this not at all, but I don't have to. I get someone who does understand this to put these things together and to look at it before you buy a tool. Because the biggest mistake I see is people putting this in place first and then it taking 6 months to roll out. And it taking, and you get to the point where it's a year, you've spent $30,000, $50,000, and the C-suite's like, your numbers haven't changed. What's going on? Like, you wasted the money. You don't want that. You want to be set up for success. So to do that, you need your data and you need to know what you're going to tell it to do. You have to know what your processes look like. You can generally do this in a year. Like your first year, get that stuff in order. Get someone else to start working on cleaning that data yesterday. That is, if you get buy-in for nothing else from your CEO, get that, because that's what will allow you to scale to get more revenue. That is the key to it, the first key. So you can be figuring out, okay, what works for these customers in that meantime. You have different use cases, right? So it's not going to be the same thing for every customer. If a customer wants to get from A to B, it's going to be different steps than to get them from A to C. So that's what you should be spending that first year figuring out. What are our desired outcomes? What are our ideal customers? And what steps do we need to take them where they want to go? And from there, what steps does it take to get them to buy more and to tell their friends? But if you don't get them where they want to go, none of that happens. But once you have those steps, it starts to be really a lot more simple to program them in. And then you're cooking with gas. I love a CS tool. They make me so happy. But if they're not enabled to be able to work, they can't do it for you.
I have a question for Julie. What are the automation tools you recommend or have used?
A CS tool is great. If you don't have one, then Zapier. If this, then that. Generally, I hear Zapier being the most popular. I personally am terrible at it, which is why you don't have to be good at everything. Find somebody who's good at it and, say this is what I'm trying to achieve. Plenty of people hire a contractor for this. That's okay. Have them sign an NDA and, get somebody who knows what they're doing to set up your automations. It will save you so much time. Mike Cordona is an amazing person to look up on LinkedIn. He has a program called Busy to Leveraged, where he teaches you to do these things. So that's a really cool thing to look into as well if you're interested in being able to do them yourself. Free plug.
I'm trying to group the questions and okay, the ones that I missed, we're gonna leave them at the end. Ashley also asked, do CSM typically help with sales prospecting?
No, we're doing enough already. I see this happening and I'm sorry, but if you can't do your own sales prospecting, you're being lazy. It's, the product's so much better. Watch a recording of one of our trainings. No. That's a hard no. That's an easy boundary. We are post-sales. Prospecting among existing customers. Should this be an expansion of theirs? Absolutely. And we can be handling that if well enabled. But no, you are not dealing with new clients. You are not showing them the product because someone else can't be bothered to learn it.
Before we move to our last statistic that I want to comment, I want to ask you, Nino, how can a CS leader best prepare for difficult conversations with employees during a hiring freeze or layoffs? And what are some key messages that should be communicated during these conversations? How do we prepare for them?
First of all, you call it very, very clear. It's a difficult conversation for everybody, for HR, for leaders, for everybody. also between colleagues, it's a difficult conversation, when you are talking about this. First of all, I think that you as a leader, you need to lead with empathy. And I'm talking about empathy, not only with the existent colleagues and also with the future ones or with the former ones. You need to lead with empathy and to understand what are the feelings that they are facing in this kind of situations. On the other hand, recently we are hearing all the time, companies are reorganized, and of course they are making a lot of layoffs, and also they are looking in the market for new joiners. And for you as an employee, it's a very messy messages. Okay, big companies are restructuring, okay, but in the same time other big companies are looking for new employees. What am I doing here? And it's a moment in every employee's life when they are thinking about what I'm doing here. I am doing the right stuff, I'm doing the right role for me, I'm where I want to be in my professional career. And leaders need to be here to discuss with them about this, because you don't need to have a lot of resignation. And we discussed in the moment that we've been together before to start this event about the fact that quiet quitting, it's something after the great resignation. The great resignation, it was very clear to saw it, because the people is quitting and is not here tomorrow. But in quiet quitting, you cannot say if somebody is in quiet quitting or not. And you cannot say if you have a productive team or not. Just, okay, if you are looking for some results or this kind of stuff. But it's very difficult for you to predict what will happen. And when you are in the situation for layoffs or this kind of stuff, you need to lead with empathy for everybody around you, and also to treat your team with respect. Be honest and transparent. When you are honest, okay, we need to reduce the FTEs due to the fact that the business was reduced, or I don't know what is the reason behind. Be transparent and be genuine, because in this manner the people will understand. And I experienced moments when the other said, yeah, of course, it's a normal decision that you need to have it, because from, I don't know, 10 clients, we have 3. It's normal that we need to find ways. In some cases, they will help you to find ways. Okay, let's automate what we can. Let's put, I don't know, in outsourcing what we can to cut costs, or different ways of things. And not the least one is keep communication lines open. you know Keep all the channels open. you know Back to our first discussion about open communication organization. Keep it open. It's important. It's very important in these moments when you're facing with layoffs to not reduce the communication. Okay, I send an email, I inform them about this, and that's it. They will understand what to do. No, no, no. In this period, you will not be in the situation to over communicate. Not at all. Communicate, be transparent, have a focus group, discuss with them, take the polls, ask them what are their suggestions, make them partners, business partners. Because in some cases you'll find out a very nice ideas from them. Because of course they have network, they have other experience outside the experience from your company. So yeah, based on them, and treat them very open and transparent, of course.
The last thought that I wanna comment, it's a consequence with the question that we basically started. We said that nearly 53% of CS staff in North America is looking basically to switch jobs. And I want to ask you, Rachel, how hard is it to replace a CSM? And what is the real cost of recruitment for a CS team?
I mean, again, always depends on your situation, but I'm seeing this a lot. I've been talking to my CS leaders, like, who's your top performer? Give them a raise now. Like, what are you paying them? No, 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 no. They can get $100,000 somewhere else, and they're going to. And they're like, okay, I'll talk to my CEO about it. I'm like, no, now, and then a week later, they're like, they took another job. Yeah. So look, everyone is very much at risk for this. And it's a tough position because you probably are not, you want to pay them more. You want to give them less work. It might not be an option right now. And yeah, people are going to leave. And having to replace one it's not just, okay, we're going to be up without a CSM for a little while. What do you do with those clients? Either the CS leader has to take them on a lot of the time, and then they're not able to move any sort of strategy forward. Another CSM has to take them on. The customers are getting bounced around to people either way. But not only do you have to hire someone, so you're out a person for months, 3, 6 months. So not only do you have to hire them, you have to train them another 3 months to get them fully, up and running like the old person was. So 6 months to a year, you don't have that employee and your customers aren't being served, and you're going to see churn. You're definitely not going to see the growth that you expected from those accounts because they feel unimportant. They're not being treated well. So it's a very big deal when you lose a CSM because you're losing those relationships and that trust. And the customer's like, what's going on? It's manageable. What I will say about this is there is a way to retain your CSMs by being a good leader. And part of that looks like understanding what their personal goals are, what their professional goals are. Like, what do you want to do with your career moving forward? Okay. So here are the things you need to be able to do that. Like, you want to move up to, team lead, you want to move up to manager. Here are the requirements you will need to be able to do. If you want this, I will give you every opportunity to gain these experiences so that you can put them on your resume. This upskills them. This keeps them staying longer. You don't have to pay them more while you're doing this, but it's so rare to have a boss who will do that for you. They actually stay longer and they benefit you more because they're getting more skilled and they're more engaged because they're excited. And guess what? It takes some work off your plate as a boss. It benefits everyone. So that's the best advice I can give you, is to try that tactic. If you can't give them more money, if they're feeling overworked, enable them in that way, because you can always do that.
One last question from Richard. If CSMs are looking for another job, curious what they are looking for. Is it sales, support, or another CSM role elsewhere?
Most of the time they're looking for another CSM role, thinking it's going to be better somewhere else. I do think it will get better very soon. I think 6 to 9 months, because it's switched so far away from what it was. I think that retention will suffer. And when that happens, there's going to be a swing back to customer experience and a focus on retention. But I think that's going to take a good 6 months. We're already about 3 months in. CS has lagging indicators, so it's going to take a while before it's like, oh, we've lost a lot of people. But at that point, you will be able to find a job where it is closer to perhaps what you were looking for. I know a lot of people are looking because they're doing triple the work for no more money, and now they're being tasked with quotas, which they've never had before. And yeah, they're like, I want what I had before, and they're not necessarily going to find it in this moment. It doesn't mean you shouldn't look if that's what you want, but be aware of the current situation and that it will change.
I wanna thank you both. I think we came to the end of this event, and I wanna take a moment now to thank you all for joining us and for being here with us. And I hope you found it this session informative and engaging. And I want to thank you both, Rachel and Nino, for sharing your knowledge and expertise. I'm grateful for your time and for your contribution. And before we wrap things up, I shared on the group the quiet quitting in CS report for everyone who wants to dig deeper into it. And drop us a line to let us know your thoughts. You can find any of us, me, Rachel, and Nino on LinkedIn. Your feedback is invaluable to us, and I personally try to improve the events and the content to better serve your needs. I hope to see you all again in our next events. Thank you once again, and until then, stay safe and keep learning. Thank you all for a great. Thank you for all for a great event. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Nino. Thank you all for participating.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.